Welcome to the webinar on setting up the teacher portal for skills-based grade reporting and subject-based grade reporting. I'm Beth Elliott, I'm your trainer. We're going to be going over how to set up the system so that you can enter skills and subject-based grades. We're in the admin portal and we're going to start with the skills grades area and we're going to set the skills marking period dates. And what you do with that is when you go in is it's going to give you the ability to set your start and end dates. And this is when the particular skills are open to the teacher. They can actually overlap between the ending date of one marking period with the starting date of the next, because you might want to give the teachers the ability to start entering skills before the start of second trimester when first trimester is still being graded at the end of the term. You also want to correspond or select the corresponding marking period for the gradebook, so for the subject grade, so it knows what goes where. And that's just you pull it from a list. It makes it very easy to coordinate. You set up one of these for each of your grade fields that you have here. In any of this you have the question mark, which gives you context-sensitive help as we did in MMS Generations. It's going to bring up a new screen, and as we hovered it gave you a reminder that you need to allow pop-ups in order for that help to come up. But it's going to give you help on how to set this information up. It's also going to give you a valid date range. So it very nicely tells me that, oh, the marking period I'm in or the school year that I'm in, my dates are between January 1st, 2014 and December 31st, 2015. So it knows what I'm working with there. I could also, depending on my access, I can change what school I'm in, but I'm usually not changing what school year. The other half of the grades, skill grade setup, is to set the active subject grade marking periods. When I click on that, what that's going to do is it's going to let me see for each of my different grade plans which are the active marking periods that I want for the subjects available to the teachers, so that if they go through the skills editor, these are the grades that they can enter. So it's very easy to set up the skills side. Next up, we're going to do the grade reporting side, the gradebook side. So under Gradebook, we're going to go to the Configure the MMS Gradebook. In here, for each of the schools, we're going to set up what is the default grade scale, which is letters. We're going to set up a default grade point value group that I'm actually going to set as the EP and I, because most of the courses use the EP and I grade group. You can, for linked sections, a linked section is when you have a course that has multiple meeting times at a high school level. If you think of maybe a physics class that meets period 3 all week long, and it also meets period 4 2 days a week so they can do a lab. That's the kind of thing that you would have with a linked. And you have the option to either display all lines or one line per section. Because for the most part all of your courses are just one single line anyway, it isn't going to matter. But you have the ability to set that up different for the parents and students versus the staff, so they can see it two different ways. Below that is we have enabled the standards grading for the gradebook, and what that does is it allows the teachers to associate the standards or the skills with individual assignments. So they can have a math on something and be able to say, oh, this covers about being able to do coinage, so I could count my money, and it also applies to the ability to add and subtract. So I can do two different skills aside with the same assignment. The enabled competency-based grading is I want to be able to go from those skills and bring it back to an assignment grade. And that's not of a level of how you're scoring at this point, so we're leaving it as no. The next question is whether I want to suppress the display of the numeric equivalent grade. Where we are storing letter grades, we don't want to show the parents the numeric grade, so we are suppressing that currently. For the parents and students, there are 3 additional questions, and that's whether or not to include the teacher term notes on progress reports, and right now they are going on there. Do I want to include the standards marking period averages on a report card? And I can actually turn that to yes, saying I do want to see that. And do I want to include the assignment scores on the progress report? This is if the parent is printing it from the parent portal. So it gives you that option that they can see that far down. One is just the average and one is going down to the individual assignment scores. And then when you're done, you would hit Save Settings. This is usually set once at the beginning of the school year and you don't normally need to change it. Because we're saving the setting of the configuration, it's going to ask me for the grade scale and valid grade group that I put in here. Do I want to have it applied to all the sections? And do I want to overwrite or not overwrite what's already out there? I'm going to not overwrite at this point, but I could if I needed to at the beginning of the school year to make sure that they have the right settings. And there it saved the configuration. The next piece here, I'm actually going to go to the bottom for the moment, and that's to configure the assignment attachments. The assignment attachments is that for each assignment the teacher set up, do I want to allow them to, on the web portal, flag where I have assignments that go or attachments that go with that assignment. So it could be a worksheet, things like that. And if I say check it to allow it, I can say where do I want to store it. The default is the application area, and this is usually somebody at the administration level would be doing. Right now the default is that we are allowing it, and we're allowing up to 3 different attachments per assignment. And we've set up a size of how big can the files be. Now these are in bytes. So a kilobyte is 1,000, a megabyte is millions. So basically what we're working with here as a maximum size is about 157 or 150 meg file size, and that's pretty big. So we could reduce that if we needed to, depending on how much space that's out there. Below that is what file extensions do we want to allow. So you have the option on an individual file extension to have that turned off. So I might want text files, but I might opt of, I don't want video files. So you can check individual ones as you need. And then you would just save the configuration when you're done. Also under the gradebook is the set marking period dates. The marking period dates is it gives you the ability for an individual grade plan. So I would have to do the different sets for whether I'm doing trimester grades or my full set, depending on which grade plan I'm working with. And I would select the marking period that goes with it. And I would set a start date and a close date. Now I'm going to actually come over here and bring up one that already exists. So I have a start date of when do I open up the marking period to the teachers for assignments. And I have both a date and a time. Where the skill grades I was only doing the dates, for the marking periods I'm getting into time. The start date is when it opens to the teachers. The close date is when the teachers are locked out of doing any changes once that close date and time is done. So if this was November 7th at 3:01, I would not be able to save information for this grade plan in this marking period. If it was 2:59 p.m., I could still do it, but at 3:01, I can't change anything anymore. The senior end date we're not worried about because we're not dealing with high school at this point. The last area here is a final grade entry only. If I'm working with my trimester grade, I do not want to check that. If I was working with my midterm, final average, or final exam, where I'm not going to create any assignments that go with it, then I would check the final grade entry only. There are notations or notes right here about that final grade entry only, so it gives me that capability to set it. So it makes it nice. So I would keep changing this. So if I went to, say, my trimesters with the exams, but without the midterm, I would see that I have all my grades here, and I would select one and fill it in. What's nice is once I have filled these in, I have a nice list that I can see below it. The default is it's sorted by the grade plan and then by the marking period. Actually, it then does it by the dates. But if I wanted to double check my close dates, I could just click on it and it's going to sort based on those close dates. So I can sort on any item that's here. Makes it nice for me to work with. If you have done some changes to the setup of, say, how you're working with it, if I was changing from, say, the ABC grade to an EPI grade or the other way around, I might, under Gradebook, want to come over and update the grades. And what that does is it gives me the ability on a school-wide basis to have the system go in and recalculate all of the marking period grades. And I can do that not only for an open bin, but I can also do it for a closed marking period. I would collect what marking period, what grade plan I want to work with. So in this case, the two I have open are for the two plans. And then I would hit the Update Grades button. I can do this not only for the marking period grades, but also under Gradebook, I can do it for the standards grades, where it will go in and recompute those for me. But we will be covering how to set up the standards for averages in another webinar.